My name is Grace Kinnison. I am from Austin, Texas, and I am in the 4th grade at PSE, Pond Springs Elementary, and I am studying about Texas history. Thank you for talking with me about Martin de Leon.
You're welcome, Miss Gracie.
We're studying the history of Texas and some of the more important founding fathers of that include Martin de Leon.
That's correct.
How are you connected to Martin de Leon?
Well, Miss Gracie, I am 6th generation descendant from Martin de Leon, and I did bring for you my table, my genealogy table, to show you my my relationship to Martin de Leon. You can see me here, down here. This is my mom and my dad. This is my dad's mom and dad. This is my granddad's mom and dad. This is my great-granddad's mom and dad. And then, one more generation, that is my great-great-granddad's mom and dad, which was Martin de Leon and Patricia de la Garza. So Martin de Leon is my great-great-great-grandfather.
Oh, wow.
That's 6 generations from Martin to me. So that's how I'm related.
Why is Martin de Leon important to Victoria and Texas history?
Martin de Leon is important to Texas history because he was one of 2 men who got permission to settle colonies in Spanish America. The first one, of course, Stephen F. Austin in 1821, and Martin de Leon got his official permission to settle his colony on April 9, 1824. And this is a map of the United States in 1801. And you can see that the United States just occupied the original colonies. And everything in yellow here, Miss Grace, belonged to Spain. And as you can see, Florida, Louisiana, and all of Texas was considered Spanish America. And in around 1820s or so, men like Stephen F. Austin and Martin de Leon petitioned the governor of the time for right to settle a colony. And Martin de Leon was one of the 2 men who achieved such a grant or contract, and he represents one of the earliest settlers or pioneers for settling a colony in Spanish America. Of course, very rapidly after their grants, 1821 and 1824, we then have the Texas Revolution.
How many people did Martin de Leon bring to Victoria?
With his original contract, Martin brought his family and 41 families to Victoria to settle the colony.
How old was Martin de Leon when he found Victoria?
You're going to find birth years on Martin de Leon vary from place to place. But my family, the people who are really interested in tracking our legacy and stuff, have come to believe that Martin de Leon was born in 1771 and not 1765, which is kind of published and out there. So if his birth year was, and we've never really found a birth certificate, and of course we're researching documents in Mexico, which is now Mexico. And but we have come to believe very strongly that Martin de Leon was born in 1771, and so in 1824, the founding date or year of Victoria, he would have been about 53 years old.
Oh. I've been to the cemetery to see the tombstones for the de Leon family, but I've heard that he's not buried there. What is that story?
Well, that is probably true, and I have decided to meet you today, Grace, on this spot because this is where the history of Victoria began. And the very center, or the very point of Victoria where that measurement began, was right on this corner right here. The original families lived all around this square. And you've asked me where Martin de Leon was buried. Well, I believe that he was buried in the middle of that block right there, because that was the location of what was called in Spanish La Capilla del Empresario, which means the Empresario's chapel. That was the site of the first church. And I don't know, if you watch TV and you see these old churches on TV, they would bury their parishioners behind the church. Okay? So I believe, and it was a very crude church, probably built out of timber, dirt floor, and they had a cemetery behind it. And my proof of why I believe that that's where Martin de Leon was born, or was buried, is because in 1948, St. Joseph, who owned that piece of property, sold that property to the feds, and their plan was to build a post office. And they began to excavate for that basement on that building. And I was not alive in 1948, but my uncle and my father were. And when they began to excavate that land, they turned up a lot of bones. Okay? I guess the matter was settled by them collecting all of the bones that they managed to find and interring, which is to rebury them at the site in Evergreen, which you see that has a fence around it and has de Leon on it. But quite frankly, from the time 1824 or 1833 to the time that they found those bones, there were no tombstones, there were no markings on them anymore, so they don't really know who all they were.
Victoria has an elementary school, a street, and a plaza named after de Leon. Are there any statues or other things named after him anywhere else?
There is a marker, a historical marker, that is on the corner of Ridge and Church Street. It's behind this building. It's on that corner over there. And it marks the original home site for Martin de Leon. All of the original people who helped settle the colony, or most of them, lived around this particular block. But that was the location of their home. We have great ideas and plans to build a statue of Martin and Patricia, but we haven't just managed to make that come alive just yet.
Why did you choose City Hall Square for this interview instead of de Leon Plaza?
Well, as I mentioned, this is where it was happening in 1824. This was the area that the town was initially built on. And for you to see that. I have a very crude map that I drew for you, and I'm going to give it to you. And this area right here, I told you it was the mall. It was called the Plaza del Mercado. That's where we are right here. And we're kind of sitting right here. And I'm going to give this to you. This is where we're sitting. And I told you the reason why I picked this spot was because this is where the city was built. And this was the absolute center of town. For their work or their contributions to their community, they were given land grants. And I will mention one that's very important, besides the church that was built there, where Fasati's stands. I don't know if your last trek took you around this particular block, but there is a historical marker on every corner on this block.
Yep.
And this historical marker right here talks about the Round Top House, which was located on that corner where Fasati's is. And the Round Top House was considered the home of Placido Benavides. And Placido Benavides would probably be the first alcalde after Martin de Leon, and an alcalde is the mayor. He was a really fascinating guy. He was kind of a jack of all trades. The guy could ride a horse. In fact, you may have heard of him. He is the Paul Revere of the Texas Revolution, because he went and he was one generation younger. He was married to Martin's daughter, one of his daughters. And when the Indians would start to attack, that was where they would go and not be hurt by the Indians. So.
Well, that was my last question for you, but thank you for sharing your time and your family's history with me. This has been a very educational, and thank you very much.
You're welcome. You're welcome very, very much.